Call to order the Oregon Coast Community College First Board of Education for 2025. Roll call, please, Lori.
Rich Emery,
Here.
Debbie Kilda,
Here.
Chris Chandler,
Here.
Marion Mann,
Yes.
Paul Skidema,
Here.
and Bud Shoemake.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Marshall, for your official first meeting as president, and you get the first word.
Well, thank you. Real quick, I just want to remind everybody that pursuant Senate Bill 1502, this Board of Education meeting is being recorded, and it will be posted on the college website within 7 days of the meeting. So I would ask that everybody be patient with us. This is our first time doing this under the new public meeting rules. And so we're hoping that everything goes smoothly. But I want to welcome everybody to the meeting. I want to welcome all of our students, our staff, our faculty that are here, and our guests. Thank you for coming and being here. And I'm going to turn it back over to Chair Emery for the approval of the minutes.
Okay. Board members, you have received the minutes from the December 11th meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Next item would be to finalize the agenda. Does anyone know of any changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, then we will proceed. Written communications, Lori, anything?
No written communication.
Okay. Public, at this point, if you are interested in making any comments on agenda or non-agenda items, now would be the time to give you the floor for that. Anybody interested in that?
No signups.
No? Okay. Then there is no need for the president to respond. So moving along, we will start the process of conducting interviews for the vacant Zone 2 position on the Board of Education. With the resignation of Allison Nelson Robertson, the Board of Education followed its processes for an interim appointment. These processes include community outreach regarding the vacancy, a request for applicants from Zone 2 to apply, and interviews at our public meeting, which will take place now. We have had 2 applicants apply. We are very pleased that you have applied, and we will then we thank you for your interest in serving on the board. You are applying to serve on a public board. All interviews and deliberations will take place in public and will be recorded. Each candidate will be asked a series of questions, one candidate at a time. Once the interviews are completed, the applicants may choose to leave the meeting, or they can stay for the remainder of the board meeting. Candidates will be notified of the board's decision after the meeting. So again, welcome. Thank you for your application. And we'll go in the order that I have it here. Philip Mills.
Mr. Mills?
And just to let everybody know in the room, and particularly for the applicants, I am hard of hearing, so hopefully I will be able to hear you speak loud enough.
No
Okay.
problem. I understand.
So we have a, I can find them. We have a Thank you. We have a list of questions. There we are. That's right. We have a list of questions, and each member of the board will ask a question of you. So I will start and ask you to describe your volunteer and community experience.
There's a lot of that. But locally here, I started Grumblefish Music about 5 years ago. And we do a lot of, we help the boosters and things like that. We had the Samaritan came over and asked us to help them give them stuff so they could use for auctions. which I came up with a really cool idea. I put a bag and I drew the Rumblefish logo on it, and then I put all this cool stuff in it. And it was supposed to be that you were bidding on, you didn't know what you were bidding on. It turns out that was the number one thing. They really made more money off of that than anything else, which I was very happy to hear. We did the same thing for the local school, the boosters. They raised money for the kids, which they didn't purchase any instruments from us. We were just actually helping them. We don't sell them instruments. But so I did a lot of that. We do a lot of outreach. We did start the Rumblefish Fund, which we were going to revive. What happened was COVID happened. We had to stop. But what we were doing was we wanted to set up a nonprofit organization which would help children purchase hearing aids. I'm a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing. I have a daughter who's deaf. A lot of times I deal with parents, and they'll say to them, well, you have to give us a $600 deductible, which is a lot of money. And if you don't have it, it's like a mountain you can't climb. So we thought we would give that money, and we did. We actually helped one student get some, for the hearing aids and stuff like that. We had to pay for to get molds, ear molds done. So we did that. We helped him out. Then COVID hit, we couldn't do it more. So, but my daughter was just talking to me a few weeks ago about reviving it. So I hope that does happen. So I did a lot of that. But prior to that, before I moved out here, which was about a dozen years ago, I worked for a school support agency. I was an administrator for that. And every year they had the cancer, raise money for cancer, and I would be there for the pictures for us. I did other stuff too. One time I helped the, I think it was Red Cross. They had a problem. It was around Thanksgiving and they didn't have any people. And they had to get all this food out. So I did that with a bunch of people. I did things like that. That's basically it. I don't join volunteer organizations or anything like that. I am the treasurer, however, for Article 27. I just started doing that about 2 months ago. That is actually an organization. A lady came to our store when it was a Sunday. I fix guitars on Sunday. The lady came by, she's knocking on the window, hey, can I talk to you? And what they're doing is they're trying to raise money so that they can keep, organizations from cheating musicians and other entertainers. She was involved with this lady. You know that song from the 60s, I've got a new pair of roller skates and you got Brandy Key? That lady, I don't remember her name, but she got involved with her and that's how they started this whole organization. But they asked me, would you be the treasurer? So that's what I've been working with them. I helped them set their websites. In between all those stuff I do.
Thank you.
What motivated you to apply for this position and what expertise do you bring to the board?
Well, I'll start with the expertise part of it. I started working in schools when I was 15 years old. I used to clean. That was my first job. And then I became a school bus driver. I worked around school one year. Then I became a school bus driver. I used to interpret for that children in school. The teacher talks and you sign what the teacher saying. And then I became a teacher, and then I was an assistant principal, substitute principal, and I was an assistant program administrator for a school support agency. I was in charge of their deaf and hard of hearing program, visually impaired, orientation and mobility. I did the Nolde Forest program. That was funny. I was literally in the woods in a suit with these guys with Smokey Bear hats. So I said they would teach kids like, the fish eats the bugs, and helps the trees. And these guys are really good. I really didn't have to do much with the Nolde Forest program, but I was in charge of that. I also did UB the Chemist. We did that once a year. I had to be the judge for academic challenge. That was a really tough one. Because they have a question about something, you had to be able to answer it, but that was a lot of fun. And we went to the States that year with one of our group went to the States. So I got to go in and sit in there, and it was a lot of fun. I was also in charge of driver ed, which was the worst job ever. Super scary. And I've been shot at. So yeah, anyway, so I did that. And then right now I'm a teacher of the hearing impaired. But along the way, I have taught at I taught urban, suburban, and rural schools. I taught at every level, from pre-K to college. I taught sign language in 2 different universities, Penn State, Brilliant Lines, and Susquehanna University. I don't know what they have. I didn't go there. I just taught there. And so I have a great deal of experience. I've been working in schools 45 years. Why did I agree to do that or come down here to speak with you? Well, there's a couple of reasons. I don't do anything for just one reason. There was a few of them. college actually helped us out. When I first started Rumblefish, there was a whole lot of stuff I did not know about business, which I found out, fast, because we opened it up and then COVID hit, so we got to get open fast. But Mr. Price was here and Ms. Woodley, who works for me, is a great company. In fact, I was just talking about this. He gave me a trick to find out if our advertising was working. It wasn't, so I saved a lot of money. Yeah. So it's a good institution. It helps out. It helped us out. So if anybody needs anything else, I also thought to myself, lately I've been thinking I should do more than just Jason Buck all the time. But that's because it started out really poor. So, in order to do all the stuff I did in life, go to college and all that, I had to work. I've always been. I got to stop that sooner or later, but yeah, that's what I do. And they came together. And then I'm thinking this, and then I see the newspaper like, they need somebody for Ward 2. And I was thinking to myself, well, I don't know how many people will do want this. I know it's very difficult. Sure. And I thought, well, I do have a background, so it makes sense. And I thought, I'll come down and speak with you.
Thanks. So if you're on the board and you find yourself in a minority position here on an issue, how do you think you'd handle that situation?
Well, I believe it would be a team decision. So I understand, on the rare occasion someone doesn't agree with me, then I would just have to accept that. I'd like to think that if you have a better mousetrap, it shouldn't be so hard to sell. And if I say something and the rest of the board says, no, you don't really agree with me, that's that. I don't see, again, happens a lot when you're on IEP teams. And this has happened to me a few times where I'm working with, a student and I'll tell the team, I think we should do X and Y. Well, we don't want to do that. Okay, well, maybe we'll do it their way and we'll see if that works out. And if it doesn't, we can bring it back to what I want to do. So sometimes that's what I do. I don't believe in, bullying or whatever. I don't think that works. As an administrator, school administrator, it'll take me long to figure out. You come up with one or two good ideas, you throw it out to people who work for you, and it comes back as 5 better ideas. So that's what I did a lot. I even do that Rumblefish. I really do almost like, I would say management by committee, but it's pretty close. I get a lot of input from the people that work for me. We also had Rumblefish cleaning. Pretty soon, we're rolling the creek don't rise, like my mother used to say, Rumblefish bagels. Working on it. But because I think Lincoln City needs a good bagel store. But that's the way I look at it. I really think that a lot of it is, you have a better enough stuff to sell. It's selling, maybe this is going to be a thought.
What is your experience with public meetings?
Oh, it's a long. Yeah. I used to have to do all of the school board meetings. I was an assistant principal. Some of them got quite ugly because it was in an inner city middle school, high school combo. Pennsylvania did do that a lot. They think it saves money. I'm not entirely sure it does. But anyway, that's what they did. So I would have to be there for everyone. So I did a lot of that. A lot of those school board meetings, they would go on endlessly too. True. And some nights you probably feel like, oh, look, is the clock going backwards? But they were kind of chaotic stuff too. Because people come up and get very upset. There was an issue in the school where it turned into a national scandal. It had nothing to do with me, however. Anyway, long story short, I've been for a few of them. But I don't actually attend I'll tell you the truth, I don't attend the school board meetings for Lincoln County School District. So.
Thank you.
As a representative,
Excuse me, I just want to mention one thing though. I just always forgot. I was like factotum for those meetings. When they needed something, I didn't get it. Or they had a question about something. Look at me, I didn't get it or whatever. So that was kind of, I'm sorry.
oh, no problem. As a representative for Zone 2, how do you plan to engage with North County residents regarding student and community educational needs?
Well, I think that probably we were just surprised. We were just talking about this. One of the difficult things that are happening in this day and age is that everybody is just so bombarded with information. It's hard to get your ideas across. I was thinking probably the best thing to do is they have this thing called Nextdoor, and also we put a website out, that kind of thing, where people could contact me through that. That might be better. Obviously, I don't get a call. That's a hard one too, to get that information out. But that would be the way I think I would try to do that. Try to do that outreach through the internet. That's our best bet, because, I mean, other than really literally knocking on doors, I don't see any other way to do it. Thank you.
Okay, and the last question is of the direct appointment, which is what you're applying for right now. That appointment would serve through June 30th, 2025. Do you care to comment on your intentions regarding running for the position in May of 2020?
I didn't really think that much about it. I figured I'd just do this. I didn't really think about it. I never really considered running for it. You have to tell me how, because I don't really know. I'm sure I have to get, stand up in front of the supermarket. Will you sign this petition? So I can get on the board or something like that. I don't know. But I would be open to it. If you were kind of excited for it. I don't mind it. It's just never really thought about it.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with the board? Any final comments or anything?
Just that in the time that I've been out here, I moved out here about 10 years ago. I originally grew up on Long Island, and then I moved out to Pennsylvania. And I lived there for about 30 years, but then the children grew up. I was working as an education consultant, and I got a job here, so I did that. And I got offered a job post chair, which I really wanted to be for a while. So years ago, I really pushed. But in the time that I have been, I've seen this college for quite a bit. Did a great job. I mean, just that whole thing with, and I used to be an automotive, I'm an ASC certified automotive tech. I did that for years. I worked on cars, stuff like that. There's another way to work away from college. And I think that's great. I think, that was another reason, again, a confluence of ideas of why they do these things. But I support the mission of this college. I think they do a great job. So being part of that would be
Thank you. Play music.
I do. I play a lot. There you go, Paul. I play the guitar. The banjo is my favorite. I love the banjo. And then I play ukulele. And I've taught some music. I don't like teaching as much because I have so many responsibilities to run the place. But yeah, I play a bunch of different instruments. It's funny, at Grumble, I'm probably the worst musician. Some of those guys that work there are really good. I was still like, what's that you say? These guys are good. But no, I do really enjoy it. Because it's been so many years I couldn't play well. And it took me a long time. I believe it or not, it takes me longer to learn. Some things I learn faster than others. Music is very slow. So I've learned a language. That's another one that takes forever. And so now when I play, to me, I'm like a kid. It seems magical to me. Even though I fix these instruments and I play them, and it seems, I know it's kind of a goofball way, but to me, it's like a magical thing to do because, like, I couldn't do it for so many years. I always wanted to, but I do love this. It's made my life so much better.
Thank you very much for your interest. And
I appreciate it. I used to go though, however, so. All right.
Thank you very much. Again.
Okay, Mr. Alexander. We're gonna follow the same format, sir.
So, first question, describe your volunteer and community service, please.
Okay. So I suppose my structured volunteer experience is mostly 3 years as Secretary of the London City Chamber of Commerce, which was getting on for a decade ago now. More recently, I served successively as Secretary, Vice President, and then President of the Lincoln City Warming Shelter, which was a 501c3 that was set up about 7 or 8 years ago, and which operated a severe weather shelter in Lincoln City for several years. And most recently, I served as Treasurer of the Friends of Oregon Coast Community College, which lobbied for a yes vote on the trades education ballot measure. Beyond those sort of board settings, I've coached youth soccer for 5 years. My son is now 11, and that has given me experience in dealing with tempestuous situations and developing my patience. my community experience beyond that is largely a function of my role as publisher of Oregon Coast Today. It's an arts and entertainment newspaper, serves the Central Oregon Coast, and that gets me out and about to lots of functions where I meet lots of people and find out what's going on. That kind of drew me into, well, that and my willingness to put on a kilt at the drop of a hat. It drew me into emceeing various events, including Pearls of Wisdom in this very building, which has been great fun. I've been very honored to be named Man of the Year twice in Lincoln City, which I find inexplicable. And slightly more explicable was being named one half, definitely the lesser half of Couple of the Year, along with my wife, Krista. So that is my experience, and I feel thoroughly enmeshed in the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What motivated you to apply for this position, and what expertise would you bring to the board?
So it was my most recent experience as treasurer of the Friends of Oregon Coast Community College, the Political Action Committee, that really made me more familiar with the college and underline the importance of the college as a whole and trades education in particular. That got me interested, and when I saw that there was an opening, it seemed as though I would throw my hat in the ring for consideration. As far as expertise goes, I mean, my professional expertise is mostly in marketing and communications, which I have to say are extremely well handled at the college. I'm not sure if you need a great deal of help there, but other than that, I see my strengths as being evaluating options and finding consensus.
Oh, yep. So if you find yourself in a minority position in the board on an issue, what's your approach? How do you handle that?
Well, it happens. I like to try and, as I say, I like to try and find consensus. I think boards work well when they do that. But of course, with however many people on the board, there will be times when each member is at some point going to find themselves at odds with the majority. And in that case, I think all you can do is make your best argument, make sure that people are understanding what you're actually saying. And then when the decision goes against you, you respect the decision and go home and have a stiff drink and complain to my wife, who would give me an attitude adjustment. And then after that, I think you have to do your best to work for a successful outcome of whatever action was taken.
Thank you.
What is your experience with public meetings?
Yes. It is, so prior to being a publisher, I was a reporter. A reporter in the UK for several years and then in Lincoln City for 6 years. So I have extensive coverage of extensive experience, should I say, of covering public meetings, whether it is planning commission or city council or school board or whatever. So that has given me a good deal of experience in how public bodies work. As a participant, I've had experience as the various roles, with my various roles in the Lincoln City Warming Shelter, which included eventually chairing those meetings, and also, of course, the Chamber of Commerce meetings, which were public. Now, we never really had an awful lot of people at any of those meetings, so my experience in dealing with well-attended and tempestuous meetings is mostly from the reporter's desk. I've seen them happen.
All right. As the representative for Zone 2, how do you plan to engage with North County residents regarding student and community educational needs?
Well, it would be something that I would be very willing to talk about with anyone from Zone 2 at any point. I'm a fairly known quantity up there. I'm very easy to find. My photo and phone number, my cell phone number, are on page 2 of the Oregon Coast Today every week. I am. This is a digression, which I hope you'll forgive. We have an Alexa device in our house. Sometimes my son Quinn, when he needs to reach me, will tell Alexa to phone my cell phone. And it comes through as a randomly chosen number, which means I am one of the few people, I think, who always answers my phone because there's a very good chance that even though it says it's a phone call from Georgia, it could be Quinn that will asking when I'm going to be back. So I do answer my phone all the time. I'm very accessible. As I mentioned earlier, I'm out and about at a lot of meetings, Chamber of Commerce meetings, and events, and people can always drop by the office. So I would like to make myself available as much as people want me to be. Yeah, thank you.
And for the last question again, a direct appointment would serve to June 30th, 2025. Do you care to comment on your intentions regarding running for the position in May?
Yes, I certainly would plan to. I think by that point, I would have at least just got my feet under me and have an idea of how things are working. So in order to really be an effective member, I think I need to and want to throw my hat in the ring for that.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to share with us?
No, I think your questions covered it very nicely. Thank you for making time for me. And thank you for serving on the board. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next item is a report on our OCAT and renovation project. Chris and Nancy.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you all again. You should have a report in your packet, but we provided this presentation kind of provided the same information again, a little bit more detailed opportunity to talk about it. Nothing revolutionary on here. It's not in your packet already, but I can do that if you need to. With that, I can. Oh, there you go. I'll do it. Okay, it's fine. Just a little quick recap of where we stand. Go ahead, Lori. Where we are, last month, we received the proposals from 9 companies for the architect design team. And we set up interviews with 4 of them in January. And we're bringing the recommendation to you tonight. We hope that with this team on board that we'll be able to start designing these things in a month. We're currently scheduling those. And then we're getting ready to do finding the facts for the COGC construction. And Chris will talk about that in just a few minutes. Go ahead. Our team selection committee was all the folks here. I got to tell you, these are great people. They sat through me all day and then did a tremendous amount of discussion. We picked 4 teams. Go ahead, Lauren. Glass and Hacker as a team, Integris, Opsis and HGE, and Soderstrom. These are the 4 companies that we decided to interview. Dynamic. We could have worked with any one of these, and we knew this going into it. So after 3 hours of discussion, we finally came up with a recommendation for Glass and Hacker. Glass is the architectural firm that built the original buildings 20 years ago. Hacker is a larger firm, and they're going to be focused on the OCAT building. And Glass will be doing the maintenance and the renovations work, and they'll be working together as a team. What we really liked about this team is they provided complete expertise, including CTE programming expertise from Minneapolis. I think it was somewhere back east. Excellent references, and they've extensive work here at OCCC. The college has been using them recently in all the projects. So this week, we just got the contract back. We had a meeting with the design team yesterday and went through the terms and conditions of the contract. We're in agreement, so we're just waiting on the proposal from them. Once we get that all set, we will start having meetings for programming. We'll have one meeting with just the leadership again, that's regarding the maintenance of what we want to do this summer, especially. We'd really like to get the design team on board to start doing some of the deferred maintenance projects this summer. And then we'll also begin programming meetings on the OCAT building, probably a little bit later in the month. And we're gonna look at seeing how that OCAT buildings and maintenance projects are coming out cost-wise before we get too far into the renovations design. And we want to make sure we have enough money to do everything and do it well. And then the last thing that you'll see from us, probably in the next month or so, we hope, is the master schedule for the lawn projects.
And before you go on, if you don't mind, Lori, I can just speak to that a little bit because obviously the overall completion schedule for these projects is something that we're all very interested in. So as Nancy mentioned, the first step in this OCAT building design is called programming. And that's where we get a bunch of people in a room and we just really hash out what it is and what it isn't. We'll get to the end of that phase and then we're going to have some good definition, enough for the architectural firm to give us a firm proposal on schedule for their design and the fee for that design. And that will really help us establish a long-term master schedule. So that might be in the February, March, depending on how long the programming takes. Great, thank you.
Another thing I should mention before is that we're doing the contract right now, rather than doing it for the entire life of the construction. We're doing the initial contract just for the programming effort, because part of building the master budget over time is going to be based on the overall cost for each component. So right now, we're just agreeing to pay them for the programming effort, and then we will amend it as we go along so that we can keep the budget as tight and as well tracked as we can.
And that's something they were expecting. They've worked on large programs like this before, we have as well. And it's just something where we eat that elephant a bite at a time.
No.
Any questions on design before we go on to the next step, please?
Yeah, when you engage in these conceptual design conversations, I guess I'm wondering whether part of that's when all the thinking occurs, right? That's when you have to, dot your I's and cross your T's in order to come up with a design that really meets the needs. And so I'm wondering if you had thought about working with alternative energies and maybe Energy Trust of Oregon. They have some really good people there, and especially in an OCAD building where you have a lot of CTE programs, I would suppose that the energy need would be extremely high. So is that part of the conversation? And then also the other question that I want to piggyback on, and I know talk about that. As a former science teacher, we have 2 science classrooms here in this building that is probably going to be undergoing renovations. And we've had challenges with trying to find ways to teach chemistry classes because each classroom is only equipped with 1 fume hood. And so I'm wondering, fume hoods are also part of the industrial workspace, I assume. Is there any kind of consideration given to possibly put fume hoods in there that allows for teaching chemistry as well?
In the OCAD group.
In the OCAD.
Yeah. So the first part of your question really is about sustainability, sustainable features. As you probably know, this building was built to LEED Silver standards. And the other building on the campus was, well, this achieved LEED certification, which really is about sustainable features. Other buildings were designed to meet some of those, even though they're not LEED certified. I think right now what we're looking at is exactly that goal for the OCAT building. is that it would achieve these sustainable features without necessarily being certified. So that's a long way of saying, yes, there's going to be a lot of focus on sustainable elements, energy efficiency, things like that as part of the new building, and appropriate measures that are part of the maintenance, upgrades, and renovations to these buildings. In addition, you mentioned Energy Trust, and we have already been in contact with them. Some of the existing buildings will have more opportunity than others because Energy Trust will only support if there are certain utilities that participate in their programs, and not all of the utilities that are in this area. So we've already talked to those, like Lincoln PUD, they don't participate in Energy Trust, but they do have some other incentives that we can work with them on. So yes, we're already working with them. As far as the chemistry and the fume hoods, that's something that I think will come out during this programming phase, is what's included and what's not. And if there's some talk about some science rooms being in the OCAT building, that's included naturally. We would need that to expand that. We haven't heard that yet in some of the initial conversations we've had with the leaders here about specifically including science rooms, but there's still a lot to be defined. So I'm sure that will be discussed during the program.
Okay. I would point out that on the Aquarium Science Building are a bunch of solar panels that we had put on. It would be really valuable to take a look at what the production's been like there, because it's close to the ocean, the production of solar panels is not well.
Yeah, solar's challenging in Oregon anyway. It can pencil out.
Central Oregon
Sometimes-
or Eastern Oregon perhaps,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
not so much here.
Yeah, we've done that on other buildings. It can pencil out. There's actually specific grants you can get for that purpose that really help with that. So that's one of the things we'll be looking at too.
There's quite a bit of new innovation that has happened recently with solar panels. So they don't necessarily always need the sun anymore. You can actually have solar panels that produce even during, well, clearly not during dark times, but during cloudy days.
Yeah, and I just, you indirectly answered some of this, but during the programming process, is that when you engage with the potential faculty members and students for what their needs are? Because I know the space is going to be flexible, so it's like, it's less challenging and more challenging simultaneously to make sure you got those things, but that happens during that process, right? Okay.
So essentially the programming phase, there's 4 great phases. And the first one basically is saying we're building a box. What's going to go in the box? So yes, everybody will be asked everybody that will be potentially using the program will be invited to the meetings to talk about their ideas and their needs. The school will have the ability to say, we're going to define the status of these programs and their needs, and then we'll build it up to that with also flexibility built into the design.
Yeah, that's, really the point, as she said, that's a great analogy, because we really, as you get into design, you start laying out rooms and everything else. Programming has nothing to do with that. Strictly about what goes into that. And then when we get into the next phase, which is schematic design, then we start looking at space and the architects start moving rooms around and looking at layout. It just gets more defined. And to your point, Paul, yes, cast of thousands is involved initially in programming, and then it's successively smaller groups of people are involved as we get further along.
Thanks.
Great. We'll continue. So changing gears a little bit. So that's our design side. So now looking forward to our construction team. The first step, we've been talking about CMGC. I think this board is familiar a bit with that process, and you used it on the recent roof project. But we wanted to go ahead and present some materials as if you hadn't seen it. I'll go through this, but please slow me down if some of you are not familiar, and because there is some action that we would like your participation in this process. So the first step, let me just talk about a little bit what it is. CMGC is a construction manager general contractor method of selection of a contractor. They're really not the project managers like we are, they're really more construction managers. This is something that's been around since the late 80s in Oregon. And if you pay attention to it, you'll see that a lot, I would say the majority of public improvement projects in the state are conducted with this. It's got a lot of nice advantages as opposed to the hard bid method, which is you design something and then you bid it, and then the lowest price wins. It's no consideration for quality, safety, schedule, anything else. It's strictly that hard bid is a very old method that just is based on the lowest price. And so what we do is we will prepare an RFP, just like we did for the architect, but it will be to select the CMGC, and it will be a combination of both fee and a number of other considerations: schedule, quality of their team, experience, safety, a whole lot of things, so that we feel like we're getting a professional team. And the nice thing about CMGC is we get them on board before the end of design. Really, we like to get them involved right in the middle so that they can participate in the design and add constructability, ideas, value engineering, cost estimating. So there's a lot of good participation and value that we can get with the CMGC. Next, please. All right, so an overview, getting into the weeds a little bit. This is going to follow the ORS, Oregon Revised Statutes process. It's very prescriptive about what we need to do. The first step in this is to prepare what's called a finding of facts, which you should have in your packet that came with the information. Basically describes how this is going to be a benefit to the college by using this process. And then the idea is that we are sharing that findings with you for the purpose of you reviewing that, providing any comments, clarifications that you'd like to see in that findings. And then we'll go ahead and put a notice out in the Daily Journal of Commerce, some of the local publications that will say, we intend to have a hearing for the purpose of letting the public comment on the college adopting this method and using the CMGC process. We'd like to ask that we have that hearing at the next board meeting. Gives us plenty of time. The ORS requires 14-day notice. We'll have plenty of time. Generally speaking, nobody comments. It's just, it's so well adopted. It's a very competitive process. It doesn't exclude anybody. And so you just rarely see any comments with it. And then after that, after the February board meeting, when we have that hearing, at that point, we would ask the board to approve that findings and sign it. You'll notice there's a place in the bottom where there's a signature line. That wouldn't be now. That would be after the findings are reviewed. And that would be signed and adopted. And then at that point, we'll proceed with our RFP for selection of the CMGC. So that's the process in a nutshell. Questions about that before I go on? Great. Just wanted to give you a couple of references. Again, this is in our board report. In fact, we gave you the entire section of the ORS 279C, the 335-2, that really talks about this process. I don't want to bore you with those details. It basically just says it gives you the authority to use this process after findings and then using an RFP that has certain elements in it, which are RFP will. Next, please. All right, and this is just again referring to the findings, the specific elements in this case that the findings is cited. And if you've read through that, then it's basically going to reduce risk and increase the potential for cost savings. It's going to allow us to select contractors with specialized qualifications. And that's, again, those are the things I was referring to: the safety, experience, other things other than just best fee. It's going to improve the safety elements. We'll be doing work on the occupied campuses. And so that's a big consideration for us. And then, of course, one of the big things is we don't intend to win this competition. It will be open to all qualified firms.
And it's probably important to mention too, the RFP not only goes out in multiple publications, but we also call contacts that we know, construction companies that we've worked with, that we know are capable and have a good record. So we'll be adding our knowledge to to see how many people we can get to turn in proposals.
We would expect for a program like this, and just like the architect selection, we're gonna have a lot of interest. Again, CMGC is, for the right size firms out there, it's something they do all the time. That's it on the CMGC process. We have a couple of little things to share, but questions before we go on? Thank you.
It is a big fella.
Oh, I
So
think
the
we
last
had-
couple of things we wanted to talk about, just to give you a real quick, hit, the next, we'll be producing a master budget eventually. But right now, there's not a whole lot to incorporate other than, you know, a little bit of money has been spent on the roof this summer and some other little things that have been spent. But, oh, you, go ahead, he's covered that.
Yep, next. Thank you.
Yeah, so the original budget with your grant and with your bond was 41 million. But there's this really cool program where you can figure out how much interest you're also going to get after your bond sale and when you've got the money in the bank. And so right now, the current budget is 46,770,000. That's pretty much the limit here, other than there's a line that says roofing. And some of our project management, but as each month, as you get your report from us, we'll include an updated budget spreadsheet that'll show you where everything that has been spent and what's been categorized. I'm sorry. One more.
And then this is also in our report, but, you know, we talked about the master schedule, just some milestones here. We need to get into this a little bit with our design team before we can start some things, but we're really looking forward to getting the OCCC construction started later this year. We expect that before the wet weather sets in, we really want to have a site selected, start some underground utilities and site prep so that we can, in the wet weather, get in and actually start building the building. And then the other piece is some of the initial maintenance priority things. We want to meet with Chris Rogers and some of the other leaders here and talk about what priorities. And the architect has agreed that they want to prioritize that design so we can get started on some of those right away. So we hope to see some good activity as we go along this year. And then next year is going to be very busy with a lot of it. And that concludes our lengthy report. Thank you for your patience. Any questions for us?
Any further questions? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, all the information. Moving on to the president's report.
Okay, well, this is my first president's report. Get it queued up here. So for those of you, I guess, in the room, you know who I am. For those in Zoom land, my name is Marshall. I am the new president of Oregon Coast Community College. I'm really excited to be here. And so my first official day was January 1st. It's been quite the experience learning everything, but I gotta say, I'm so grateful to everyone. This has been the most welcoming environment that I have found in any place I've ever been employed. So I just want a special thank you to all of our faculty, staff, all of our leadership for welcoming me, and the community has just been overwhelming. And so I graduated in December with my doctorate, which I know the board was wanting me to do. And so I'm happy to say that I'm officially a graduate. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So do we have to call you doctor?
No, I would hope that you will not.
Okay.
Because I'm not that kind of a doctor. So, but anyways, but thank you, sir. So I wanted to give you guys just kind of a quick overview of our enrollment. And if you look at our chart, this shows what we ended up fall term. And this is kind of a representation of fall term this year versus fall term last academic year. And you can see our FTE is up approximately 5%, which is a very, very good thing for us. We're moving in the right direction. But one of the things I really wanted to call out is our adult continuing education program. You can see we're up 27% from last fall, which is just mind-boggling if you think about it. And so a lot of good things happening, and like I said, we're moving in the right direction. And then if you look at our 5-year trend for fall terms, every year over the 5 years that we have been tracking this fall term, we have shown growth with our FTE. So this is all very, very positive and also very, very timely in regard to the project that we just heard about as to why we need this expansion and the ability to continue this growth, because the community is clearly telling us that they are interested in the programs that we're offering, and they're doing that by enrolling in classes here at the college. Next, I wanted to kind of highlight some of the things that have been going on here on campus. So we had our Oregon Transfer Days yesterday, and we had a host of institutions here that are wanting our students to hopefully transfer to them, including University of Oregon, Oregon State, PSU, Western was here, Eastern Oregon, and a host of other colleges. So very nice that they're coming out here, recognizing our students as potential transfer partners and actually trying to help them through that process. So we're very, very pleased with that. Student clubs are going on right now. Thought we would highlight that underneath the photo of our welcome desk. Everybody here on staff took turns kind of welcoming our students the first week, working the U-shaped desk out front in the downstairs building. That was a lot of fun. I personally got to work 6 shifts doing that and got to meet a lot of students, talk to them. It was really, really fun to see our students here on campus. Next, I wanted to just specifically call out a thank you to our partners, Northwest Oregon Works. You can see they provided us with a check of $41,247 to help with our aquarium science program, which you're going to hear a little bit about here later on in our presentation. Very, very grateful to them for believing in what we do and helping to fund our students so that they can be successful. So very, very positive relationship and connection. Next, some upcoming events I wanted to highlight. Our SBDC is going to be offering a second youth entrepreneur program. That's going to be starting in January, and students are going to learn how to start their own businesses. And then they're going to have an opportunity to pitch their ideas in a Shark Tank style of event. If you've seen the TV show Shark Tank, it's going to be similar to that, although we would have called it Shark Tank anyways because we are the sharks. So, and then our Career Tech Expo is coming back. It's going to be February 7th from 10 to 2. It's going to be here on this campus, and we want to invite all of the community to come out, but also the board. We want to invite you all to come out and check that out if you're available. But everybody's welcome at that event. And then, especially to the board, we want to formally invite you to the PAC graduation. So Friday, January 31st at noon. Here on this campus, we're going to have 12 graduates of that program. This is our first cohort. We'd love for you to come out, meet and greet, and celebrate our students' success. There's a picture of them there on the left, but we'd love to see you all out here to celebrate our students' success. And then, just new, off the presses, we're going to be hosting a town hall here at Newport campus where Senator Merkley is going to be coming to our campus February 1st from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. We're going to be hosting that here in the Commons. Everyone's welcome for that. And wow, what an absolute blessing to us that they have recognized us as a location where they want to host a town hall, come out and engage with our community, but specifically with our students. It's a really nice thing that they're coming and recognizing Oregon Coast as a destination for them to have these types of engagement meetings. And just a couple days ago, actually, was it yesterday? Time's kind of bleeding together right now, but we had our HEC chair, our new chair, Chair Sandy Rowe. She is the head of our Higher Education Commission. She came to Oregon Coast just as an introduction to kind of meet us, see what we're doing. She got to talk to faculty, staff, students, our executive team, and we got to discuss with her some of our future challenges and some of the opportunities that we see in higher education. And so very thankful that she's doing a tour of all 17 community colleges, and it was very nice of her to stop out here at the coast and say hi to us. Very good meeting. And then We have a Waldport facility update for you all. So I don't need to tell you all the flood that we had at Waldport. I cannot say enough for the work that our crews and our folks have done. Chris deserves a huge shout out for his oversight in this because we have gotten almost everything completed at this point. You can see the highlights there, but we're basically almost done and we are on track to open February 1st, which was our target for that. So kudos to Chris and his team and very, very thankful for the work that they did. And I got to tell you, I saw it firsthand. I visited there no less than 6 times, I believe now, and it was a mess. And if you saw it now, you wouldn't even know that anything had happened. So it's fantastic. Next, I wanted to highlight some of the activities that the library's hosting. We have our International Holocaust Remembrance Day is January 27th. We also have a beautiful display, an MLK display in the middle of the library. And then our Lunar New Year, January 29th through February 8th. Selection of books that are out there. Shannon's doing a marvelous job of keeping us fresh and making the displays very vibrant for students to want to visit the library and check out some books. And then one of the highlights of my, we've done a couple events now, one at the Lincoln City Public Library and one at the Newport Library in conjunction with some of our community partners, like Conexión Phoenix. We did some information sessions with some of our community partners. We had an attorney that was doing some pro bono work to talk about some of the concerns that our Hispanic community has. And I was so grateful to be there because I got to address the group in Spanish, which is obviously I speak Spanish to Puerto Rican, and it was just a real blessing to be part of the community and be able to speak in my native tongue with the community. But I gotta say, what you're seeing there is Lincoln City, which was our first event, which was well attended. I think we had close to 150 people at the Newport event. It was unbelievable the amount of folks that came. And so it was just a real nice thing to see the community coming together to support our Hispanic community members and for them to actually come out and want to hear what we were trying to help with. So wonderful, wonderful event. Some things that have hit the newspaper that you know, there was a nice article about President Reisling and her retirement. She has passed the baton to me and I'm very, very grateful for her support. And it's just been a real wonderful time. I got to come in a little early. I started in the middle of November, and so I got to spend some time learning from her, and it was just a real nice opportunity for me. Repairs, the Waldport Center, and then a couple other articles here that you can see that we've been in the media. And then there's a real nice article on discovering your path to a 4-year degree at Oregon Transfer Days, and that was a good advertisement for the event that I previously spoke about. So that is my report. My report stands as written. And are there any questions that I can clarify or? My first board report.
Way to go out of the gate.
Okay. It's been a busy time for sure. Anything, any clarification?
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to change my plans, but I will be in Hawaii with Senator Berkeley will be here.
Okay.
Is there any chance that that event could be Zoomed?
I would have to talk to my PR person. I'm getting the nod of no, that's
No.
not.
If I may address from
Please,
the
please.
crowd, generally they've refused that in the past, just to control the environment. They don't want to pass around a mic that's external.
Okay.
Good news, though. I'm planning to go to Hawaii with you.
Yeah, we got a 2-bedroom place, so you're perfect.
Okay, so I won't be there either. Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Next, Larry, Orion Science Update, if you would, please.
If you point it this way, this is the receiver.
Oh.
The clicker. Yeah, I think that was our problem.
I think it's been a while since I've been here for the board, so I thought I would take a quick look backwards, and then bring you up to date on our present situation, and then talk about some exciting opportunities we have coming. There's no video, no audio, low tech, so hopefully everything will work well.
Okay, never mind.
You jinxed yourself.
I can signal, it's pretty straightforward.
There we go.
All right, just a reminder for everyone, the program started about 20 years ago with an associate's degree. Even in that first class, we had students that already had a 4-year degree. And so very quickly, the founders realized there needed to be an alternative pathway for students with 4-year degrees. That's where the certificate program comes from. The word certificate's a little challenging in community college world because it can mean a very short class or it can mean essentially a full year in this case. So I like to refer to this as a post-baccalaureate certificate. These students have to have a 4-year degree. And we usually say the natural sciences. It tends to be biology and marine biology mostly. And these students come both from OSU and U of O, but also from colleges around the Northwest and even occasionally from the East Coast. More recently, some of you who have been on the board a while remember just before COVID, we started talking about a potential partnership with Western Oregon. And in that partnership, students would attend Western Oregon for 3 years and then come to the aquarium science program for 1 year. And in that case, simultaneously earn a bachelor's degree from Western in aquarium science and an aquarium science certificate from Oregon Coast. And I'm excited to say this fall, we had our first 2 students that came through that program. So we didn't plan to start during the pandemic, but we managed to pull it off. We hope ultimately probably to look at maybe 4 to 5 students a year coming through that program to us. Right now, there are 11 students at Western declared majors in the aquarium science program. And so we, obviously people change their majors in college. So we have students that have both moved into the program and moved out of the program every year. So we'll see how that goes. But our first 2 students are working out great, and both campuses work really hard to create a type of partnership that usually doesn't work, which is have someone do their senior year somewhere else. Most colleges don't like that, but it works well for us. We really thought that was important because the students are leaving here, going into the job market with fresh knowledge and skills from our program. So very excited. Just a quick agenda. I'll give you a post-COVID summary, some highlights, some things are definitely challenges we're still working with, kind of bring you up to date, and then again, talk about some future things we're really excited about. So go ahead and move on. It has been a period of transition for us, including the pandemic, but also things that weren't directly related. We lost both Dr. Matt Hawkyard, who was an important instructor for us, also a researcher at Hatfield. He has a great job in Maine now, so we wish him well, obviously. Alyssa Squires was an instructor here for a few years and taught a lot of our classes. We lost some of our partnerships with Dr. Tim Miller-Morgan, who is still on the faculty at OSU. Is one of the co-founders of our program. Dr. Tim used to teach 3 of our courses. He stepped away from teaching, but is still our veterinarian for our animal care and also serves on our advisory board and pops in and out occasionally to help us with special projects. So we still have a great relationship with Dr. Tim, but we definitely lost a really important member of our faculty. When he left, around the same time, we were able to hire a person who holds a full-time position at the college, but splits their time between aquarium science and doing laboratory prep work for the general science classes we have. So that is Claire Smith, who's actually a graduate of the aquarium science program from quite a few years ago, who came to us, or back to us, I guess I should say, from Texas. So Claire's background is in aquarium science. She has been working with our science faculty for things like microbiology labs set up, anatomy and physiology and things like that. Sort of a hybrid. We simultaneously aquarium science and science were looking for an assistant position, and sort of combo was crafted. When Alyssa left, we were looking for new faculty. We delayed that search due to the pandemic. We had a failed search in 2021. We wrote the description slightly and did get some applicants for another round and ultimately hired Dr. Carla Schuberger, who had the great advantage of already living in Newport. For those of you who know how hard it is to recruit people to move to Newport, that was a real leg up. Dr. Schuberger had been working at Hatfield as a research scientist. I like to say probably not the kind of candidate we were expecting, but has worked out well, and she is starting her second year and now really getting comfortable in the world of aquarium science is really exciting. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next one. Not a slide to brag about, but a slide to really focus on some of our challenges post-COVID. The 2021 year, the left column is academic year, AY. We were coming just out of COVID at that point, and we purposely only accepted 10 students for the program that year because we were under a lot of restrictions for how instruction would work. You know, we couldn't have people near each other. Of those 10 students, 8 eventually enrolled. We honestly were quite excited to complete that year at all at that point. We had a nice class the following year, but I think it represented some pent up demand from the previous year. And in fact, some of those students had actually been accepted the previous year and deferred the year. Since then, we have definitely struggled to get back to the number of 20, which is a really nice number for us to be at for instruction and also from a revenue point of view. If you look at the right 2 columns, those are our degree seeking students and our certificate students. And one of the things you'll see is that we have, it's bouncing around, but historically we had about a 50-50 ratio of degree students and certificate students. And it would appear, I mean, data's small, but we're trending towards more certificate students these days. Certainly in this most recent year for sure. The asterisk there by the 11 is just that the 2 of those students are from the Western Oregon transfer program. So those students will be lumped into certificates in our future data. So we still have a ways to go for recruiting. We're certainly exploring lots of outlets. I think like a lot of science programs in Oregon, we see a residual effect of COVID. I think probably most of you know that Oregon schools slipped the furthest behind of any state in the union for science competency, and we're a very science heavy program. And I think we're seeing, particularly in the degree program, students that aren't prepared for STEM programs right now, unfortunately. So we hope that's improving, seems to be improving, but we'll see. And moving on to the present and future. As I said, we're definitely looking at all kinds of recruiting strategies. Dave Price has got a great idea for some billboards around the state. We do recruit primarily from Oregon and the Northwest. The majority of our students come from here, but we do also have a national presence, and we're well known around the country. We still are at times struggling with staffing and looking at some alternative strategies. You saw in the president's report, we have received some grant money that will fund another staff position for 18 months that we're really excited about, and recruiting for that, or the application is closed today for that position. So we'll be looking at that. We have the existing partnership with Western Oregon. Those are the wolves on the left there. We have a lot of recent inquiries from our friends at Oregon State about some new possible partnerships, and maybe with a duck in our team now, we'll have some more duck conversations as well. I think one of the things we're finding is that four-year universities, which typically weren't super excited about applied work and career tech, now are starting to think about whether their students can actually get jobs when they graduate. And so I think the horizon for us is more partnership, more formal partnerships with some of our four-year partners in the area. That might be things like courses that are simultaneously cross-listed, so that students from OSU are taking a class here. Maybe our students are taking a class at OSU, but we have ways to go on that, but the conversations have started, which is pretty exciting. There's one more slide, some celebrations. We have two major national conferences in our field. One is called RAW, which is not the greatest name for publicity, but stands for Regional Aquatics Workshop, and they're resolute about changing it, so not changing it. The other one is called ALSO, which stands for Aquatic Animal Life Support Operators. You can think of the one on the right as biology, and the one on the left is engineering, the two things that keep our animals alive in aquatic systems. Those meetings move around the country every year. And in the last year, both of them are happening in the Northwest. So this past year, we were able to take our students to Tacoma for the RAW conference there. And so the picture you see here is not only our present students, but graduates of the program working in the field. And if you look really closely, you'll see me, the current director, almost to the far left, Chris Spalding, the director before me, and then 2 steps over from Chris, Bruce Koike, one of the founders of the program. So the 3 extant directors of the program all there together. So it's very exciting. The guy on the left in the back row there, or the second row there, is actually a graduate of the first graduating class. So we have a lot of great representation in the industry, which is wonderful. I mentioned already we have a new faculty member, which is exciting. We also, for 2 years running, have 100% pass rates on the exams that our students take. They are embedded in our programs, but they give them a nationally recognized certification in the ALSO organization. And this May, the ALSO conference is actually in Portland. So we are scrambling currently to get as many or all of our students to that conference. That's not something that comes up very often. The last time we were able to take all the aquarium science students to a national conference predates my tenure, but one of the meetings was in Monterey, and so they all packed in a couple vans and drove down for that. So this is a wonderful networking opportunity, and I've been working a lot with Jeanette and the foundation. We actually have some aquarium science funds that were left over from 2020 when I was also trying to take students to a national meeting. So we've been able to repurpose that and create a lot of opportunities. And that really, I think, helps us as recruiting as well, because our students talking to professionals from around the country. So that's really a great opportunity. So I believe that's my last slide. No, it's not. Sorry, I changed this at the last minute. I'll be really brief on this. One of the things we're trying to do to chart our way into the future is think more and more about things that fall under the heading of aquaculture. Aquaculture is growing things that live in the water, and we do that already in our program. But aquaculture traditionally is associated with food production. And we are seeing more and more of that in the Northwest, and there are more and more directives and funding opportunities. You may have heard the term blue economy pop up more and more these days. Underneath that giant umbrella of the blue economy is food production and aquaculture. We're particularly set up to excel in the world called recirculating aquaculture, which means not using natural water all the time. It means filtering, heating, conditioning the water, something we already know how to do. And so we are starting a process actually tomorrow called DACUM. It's a tortured acronym that stands for Designing a Curriculum. And we are looking at how to expand the aquarium science curriculum to include aspects of aquaculture. This is something we already work with partners at OSU on in our classes, and we're excited about expanding our own program. We hope eventually to have some other grants that will let us do some workshops for training for high school students, as well as teachers that might use this technology for teaching. And then ultimately down the line, between perhaps funds from this bond, as well as grant funds, we hope to build a sister facility for our aquarium science building where we can work on aspects of aquaculture. We believe this will be a big part of our program growing and meeting some of those needs that are popping up here on the coast. You may see the term mariculture used for things like growing seaweeds, especially. We're seeing some innovation in that in Oregon right now. And then aquaponics is the growing of aquatic animals and plants at the same time. We like to sort of dark joke, you grow your main dish and your side dish at the same time from a food production point of view. So we can address all aspects of these things actually within our curriculum and in the facility, and hopefully in the facility. So that, I think, is my last slide. Thank you for your attention, and if we have time, I'm happy to answer questions, but I'm also available outside of this.
Quick comments. For those of you who plan Rotary programs or chamber programs, Enrique's is the Rotary program. It's very popular. I made it always once.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah,
very impressive.
Larry, I don't have a question, but I just want to say, and I want to remind everybody of the second to last slide. 2 years running, 100% pass rate on the AALSO. That's because of you, our faculty, our staff. Thank you. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that the national average is about 75% pass rate. So we've always exceeded the national rate, but we're really excited.
Exceptional.
Past year.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thanks, sir.
I'll leave that clicker.
The next report, a welding update.
Slideshow will be advanced by Chris. Another location.
Hi, everybody. I'm Levi Yerkes. This is Gage Boone. He's one of our new instructors.
No, well, whatever you're comfortable.
Alrighty. Click.
Chris.
Okay.
He's on another player.
Gotcha. Somewhere. Oh, there we go. So on the agenda today, new faces. Gage is not our only new instructor. We have another one. We're gonna go like a brief overview over the welding program mission. What are our goals for our students? What we want them to achieve by the end of the program. We're gonna talk about some of our student achievements in the past, our early college program. Words from our students as well as the welding industry on our program, its output, what we do, and then our plans for program changes in 2025. Go ahead and click. So I'm Levi Yerkes. I'm a former OCCC welding student. I took what I believe was the first class, if not the second one, in 2019. I took 2 classes in there before it got shut down for COVID for the time being. After that, I worked in the Toledo shipyard. Initially, I got hired there for equipment maintenance and landscaping, and then after that, I moved into materials operations, just to take care of buildings and material management for projects.
Well, my name is Gage Boone. I went to a private trade school in Washington where we got basically hit with every single type of welding process you can do, and also modern trade practices and anything you can imagine with that. It's a 1-year long program. Well, it's 1 year, but it's 2 years crammed into 365 days nonstop. So, and I worked as a maritime welder at Fredwall Marine Construction, where I was ABS certified, and de facto AWS certified, just how it works.
Our second instructor, who is currently teaching a class right now, gave us a little video clip to introduce himself. If you would, Chris.
Hi, my name is Nevin Swinstrom. I'm one of the 2 new welding instructors with Oregon Coast Community College. I'm from Toledo, so I'm pretty local. I worked at the Port of Toledo shipyard for about a little over 5 years. I love welding. I love teaching, and this is just a great opportunity for me to be able to pass on my knowledge to the next generation of welders.
Alrighty. There we go.
If you don't mind just kind of clicking through all the points. I believe there's 3 there. Perfect. So our welding program mission is to arm students with enough knowledge to land them a job in the field of marine welding. And essentially what that means is basically, what's desirable to the employer, which specifically right now is maritime construction, anything maritime related. And this also includes what are the keys to being a marine welder? So basically employers tell us what they want. Well, we want our students to understand the ABS code. We want them to understand certain X, Y, and Z processes. We want them to identify parts of the boat. And it's our job to kind of, make that information clear, concise, and simple. Next slide.
Okay, in these videos here, this is Jose Durantes. He was a student that finished with our 9 physical lab classes about a year ago. He went and did his apprenticeship and now is a journeyman welder. In these clips, he's welding on a ship somewhere. I talked to him a couple weeks ago. He told me that he's making a nice hourly rate, and on top of that, with $100 per diem for each day he's out there welding, which is good. Like I said, Jose finished a program about a year ago, and then we have Stefan Vanderhoff, who was in the same class that I was. He's also employed at Toledo Shipyard, general equipment mechanic, includes welding. He's welding on the equipment that the welders use to weld on boats. Kenny Barrett was also in my class as well. He's doing like welding and building, like industrial welding in Guam currently, which is kind of a crazy jump for him. I still hear from him every once in a while, and it was a crazy life down there. Richard Barnhart was a student that departed our program last term. Again, took all 9 available lab classes. And last I heard from him, he just got a job on the East Coast, the shipyard, doing repair welding, so mostly cutting out rust or replacing parts of damaged boats. Next slide.
One of the classes I teach, or correction, I actually teach up at the Taft High School. I currently have 7 students, and I teach the 111, 112, and 113 class. And I know that we're wanting to try to keep it pretty basic with just those 3 classes because we're wanting to hopefully get the students interested in the program enough to where they would eventually, after graduating high school, they would attend the Toledo campus, the Toledo Welding Lab, and then continue on with the rest of the shipbuilding certificate that we offer.
I'm going to add some notes to that. He just gave 1 more additional student, so that brings us up to 8 total students at the Taft High School. In the past at Taft, we've run a more diverse set of courses that we've offered up there. This year, we started to limit it mostly because it made it more manageable to run the lab, simplifying operations up there. On top of that, we're really hoping with that program to bring the high school students into finishing the rest of the program through the community college, instead of just taking the classes offered up there at high school. But as for the ones who don't plan to continue, like I said, it diversifies their skill set, primes their career field after high school. That's 1 more skill set that they can add in life. Next slide. Student feedback. I'm going to cover this slide, even though I'm not the instructor. Sorry, I didn't include that in my introduction. I am the welding instructional specialist. I used to do materials management at the lab. I'm not an instructor. However, I've been with the students for the past 1.5 years, almost 2 years now, through a previous instructor. And this is kind of what I've heard from the students about our program. And a lot of these are critical takes because we're going to focus on them later on in our changes that we have. A lot of the students that are attending our program aren't actually interested in marine welding. However, as far as other places that offer welding knowledge that they can go to and learn, this is a lot of their first stop for our students. Not all of them complete our entire course because they want varying levels of welding experience. There's lots of different kinds of welding that you can do, and some are very specific to the career fields that our students are looking for. So some may only want to stick around for stick welding courses, others for wire bead courses such as MIG or flux core. And again, that rolls over into that last point of specific weld processes, positions. Even had a lot of students coming asking about welding pipe, which is something that we currently don't offer and haven't offered in the program because we just didn't see it as much of a necessity in the ship welding certificate as its entirety. As for our course structure, students have called it tedious, a lot of fitting and not enough welding. That terminology, when it comes to our field in terms of fitting and welding, is fitting is, of course, assembling your projects, putting all the pieces of metal into place, and then there's the actual welding, which is running the bead to fuse those pieces of metal together. And in some ways, I agree with a lot of that. There's a lot of time spent on the blueprinting and drafting and cutting and creating metal so that over sickness. And not a lot of time were they able to spend welding. And a huge frustration that they had was they would put all this time putting this project together, and then they would kind of mess up on one of the welds, and then they have to start back from square one, cutting the place apart, reassembling the project. As for degree obtainability, that's been kind of a hot take in the time that I've been here. As far as I know, nobody's actually achieved the shipbuilding degree. And mostly the biggest flaw to that is because we haven't been able to offer all the classes. The first non-lab class was one that we put on for, I believe, spring term of last year was the blueprinting class. Outside of that, we have a math for welders and a writing for welders, which we haven't offered yet. But later on, we'll talk about the future of those becoming obtainable, as well as the CPR We require some sort of CPR certification. And that's been kind of cloudy on how to obtain that, what the expectations for that in order to meet our degree has been. So again, that's something we're going to talk about in the presentation. Next slide.
So let's talk to Shipyard's perspective. So one thing, you know, when kind of communicating with the industry, workplace simulation. Weld output in the workplace is higher than in the lab. So essentially what that means is we want to try to get our lab quote unquote production rate up higher. So we want more students doing more welds more of the time, which, you know, when you're getting into the field, I mean, every minute counts. And when you're getting into a field such as shipyard work, every hour and every job that you do is you keep track of it. And that kind of goes into our next thing. One thing we're trying to implement next term, just so students can get used to it. And this is also just for general, you know, welding job sites too, but it's you know, clocking in and clocking out and keeping track of your hours and trying to be very timely. I would actually say all jobs right now want a person who shows up on time and stays the whole time. And that is one of the biggest things, you know. So our course contents, diversifying weld scenarios, superb weld quality among students. So one thing our students do very well, and by the end of the term, I will say this, and as you get in class, so let's say stick or wire, or, you know, just kind of to generalize it, our students generally put out much better weld quality than they see in pretty commonly in the industry, specifically maritime. And diversifying weld scenarios, something we are doing right now is basically making it where students can weld is, you know, much more time, and also giving them different types of welding projects. Also, another thing which we want to do in the future is maybe throw a pipe in there, just because in the shipyard you also see tons. There's more pipe work I've done in the shipyard than I care to do for the rest of my life. As for certifications, one thing is individual certifications when it comes to our program don't need as much as the degree. And I guess another thing to contrast against that is most jobs, while, you know, being coming from an accredited university is nice, and it's good to know that the student is trained in those processes. Official certifications really stretch much further than any, you know, than a degree. Not so much when it comes to ADS on the job site, but eventually in the future, it'd be very nice to get some form of accreditation through AWS.
I would like to add to that last little bit there. If you remember back on our student achievement slides, we talked about Stefan Vanderhoff being employed in the shipyard. His job title was not explicitly shipyard welder. He was an equipment mechanic. As well as my time at the same place in Toledo Shipyard. So Stefan and I were the two who immediately hopped into the shipyard on which the same property our weld lab is located on, yet neither of us got the welding positions that we applied for. Kind of the reason behind that was because we were both in the class that got canceled due to COVID. We weren't able to obtain the full shipbuilding degree. However, I really believe, especially after my time spent in the shipyards and seeing the welders that are around us, we were already well armed with the information that we needed to become welders. However, the 1 or 2 terms that we did on our resume was not enough justification for the shipyard to be throwing essentially teenagers in as welders. And so that's just one thing that I'd like to highlight, and we have a possible solution to that. We can go ahead, next slide. I'm going to talk about some changes that we're making in the classroom. We're switching to position-based coupons. Middle of last year, we were able to acquire a CNC plasma welding table. Like I said, one of our student gripes was too much time fitting. It would cut out the projects. Obviously, that's an important part of the welding process. However, it's getting very repetitive, especially when every single chance that you have to mess up a weld meant that you had to take 2 steps back in the process. So we're switching over to a coupon style system for our assignments. Essentially, I'm going to pump out a vast number of coupons. So students can just take them, assemble them, get right to welding. not worried much about the process before that. And that would ideally change the fitting welding time ratio that we have right now. Students arrive on time for attendance. We're gonna focus a lot more on student attendance. One thing that sets our program apart from a lot of the other college programs is ours is hours-based. Students need to spend a minimum number of time in the lab in order to obtain a degree. What we've seen in prior years is students coming and going as they please, as long as they get the projects done. If we're trying to simulate a shipyard environment, that's something that we really want to kind of move away from. Something that you see at Fred Wall Marine, that I've seen at Toledo Shipyard, that Bud is familiar with. At the end of the day, at the shipyard, you go and you fill out your hour sheet. You described every single minute of every single hour of what you were doing that day so that we could charge accordingly to our customer. That really revolves around your time management skills, which is something that our students are not learning if they're coming and going as they please, especially if some of them are not using their time effectively and still coming in late and leaving early every day. So going into this next year, we have strict standards and expectations for student attendance, especially since that's something that our degree essentially revolves around, being an hours-based degree. Student supplied consumables. We've been blessed with a lot of grant money and donors in the past to supply lab equipment, not just in terms of welding machines, but tools that we distribute out to students. That's good and bad. It's good because that's one less time the student has to pay to gain the knowledge they need. However, it's really been kind of difficult to drill into the minds of students the importance of using your tools and your consumables to their maximum extent. And so with this year, we're going to start supplying some student packages is one goal that we have this year, where we're going to basically assemble a small tool bag and be able to sell it through college to students. And that way, they've invested their money into their tools and consumables, and it's on their responsibility to figure out how to use that in a cost-effective manner. And that is a very valuable resource when entering the career field, whether you're working in a shipyard where they do material tracking. Some shipyards are strict enough where you bring back your consumables when you're finished using them before they even issue new ones to you. Or if you're, doing contract-based welding and running your own business, you have to consider your tools and consumables as an expense, and therefore need to learn how to use them effectively. Next slide. You want to cover this one?
Well, no, you took my last slide.
Oh, my bad. Okay, change it to how it's in the class. We can work on this one together. You want to go over the 1-year certificate? No, it's pretty straightforward.
The 1-year certificate, I believe that's something we're trying to push for right now, is trying to get students through the program in a whole just year. I think during our active year, I don't know if that includes summer yet, but it will contain all 9 of the physical lab classes. It'll provide a wide array of welding and knowledge, and it's something you can get feasibly done in a year. And basically, we're getting students in, we're pushing them through as fast as we can, and we're giving them all the knowledge that they need to be successful in the field.
What sets this apart from the shipbuilding degree that we offer, in some ways we're reluctant to remove the maritime context of the program that we're trying to sell. However, that will bring a lot more interest from potential students, as well as this is essentially a physical lab degree only. This includes our physical lab classes, not our math for welders, not our blueprinting, and not our writing for welders, which makes it currently achievable. These are all classes that we offer. And then going into our cohort schedule, in the past, we have taken in all students that sign up and they come to a class, and then all of the 9 different lab classes are being taught in the same classroom at the same time. That has made things complicated and kind of messy when trying to move students through the program as efficiently as possible. That's one flaw that we recognized, and this year with the 2 new instructors, it's giving us a fresh start to be able to push through and reorganize that system. So essentially, our fall, winter, and spring term all give us enough time to teach all 9 of our physical lab classes. So if a student is dedicated enough and wants to do the full 28 hours a week of class time, they could do all 9 of our physical lab classes in the 1-year certificate in 1 year. And the other thing about the cohort schedule is enables us to really clear house at the end of the year if students want to focus on the one-year degree, to make some changes to our program that we might be crucial and needed, because that's one thing that's been holding us back from making these changes in prior times, is addressing students that are still in the program and essentially in the middle of, what they consider the process. And so to switch the program up entirely is not feasible when you have students that are trying to move through the program. So the one-year certificate would essentially allow us to move everybody out, make any changes that we need, revisions, and then have the next week. Syllabus changes. Yeah, we talked a little bit about reorganizing the contents of Weld 111, 112, 113, 114.
Yeah, talked about that. One thing we're really gonna try to do in these, this next coming time frame is, kind of changing our classes. From a numerical standpoint, you can look at it and you're like, oh, you go to 11, you go to 12, you go to 13, and so on until you've taken all the classes. Unfortunately, what you don't see is, for example, Weld 112 and Weld 113 is the same process, just in 2 different positions. Realistically, that should just be the same class and the same process, and you're doing all the positions in the same class. It doesn't necessarily make sense for a time frame, kind of coming into it and kind of picking up where was left off. And so we're going to try to consolidate some classes together. Again, it's kind of the same thing for Weld 114 and 115. Is that'd be a better class if we can, maybe consolidate those into one class. But we're going to be trying to work on that. Also, unlike before, where we kind of only offer blueprinting in the term, we have blueprinting being taught currently. We have Weld 103, which is math for welders, and curriculum development right now, which I'm working on with the math and the recently hired math instructor. I'm just forgetting the name right now. And then we also are working, we're still trying to figure this out, but also reading for welders. So there's some new syllabus changes.
I believe that was the last slide.
And then one more. Do you think I can make one comment on the one-year certificate?
Yes.
And then on the one-year certificate, we say it's shipbuilding for welders, and we also call it the one-year certificate. I think one of the things that we might struggle with the program, or possibly relaying the program information to the public, is semantics. If you take the shipbuilding repair, level 2 certificate, basically the big certificate that we offer, you can go anywhere and do any type of welding you want. It isn't just limited to that. If you know how to stick weld, you know how to stick weld, and that stick weld is the same no matter where you go. And that goes with any other process. So I don't know, maybe I'll try to look into that a little bit, but change of semantics there would really help the public, I think, understand what we're doing.
I really can't agree with that more, and I need to put a lot of emphasis on the quality of welds that our students are putting down are superb. They are very excellent. They're honestly, in our time in the shipyards, better than what you see a lot of average worker performance you see have. So that's why this year we're doubling down on other factors that would make our students better employees in the shipyard and making our program more appealing on a resident. Yes. Any questions? That's awesome. That's awesome.
So how many students in Toledo now?
Thank you.
Yes, student counts. This term, we have.
I think there's 8.
No, you saw that's a tap. He's asking about.
Oh, that's Toledo. Oh.
So you have.
I think it's, I believe I have, I want to say 14 students in my classes, and then a lot of those students are also taking Nevins, and some students are only on Fridays right now. So I got 14 students in all, but they're broken up over several, maybe 2 days for me and then a different days for them. We have some students who are taking the class. They're taking Newpor Monday and Wednesday, and then they're taking my class Tuesday for 8 hours, and they're taking Nevin, the constructor's class, for another 4 hours on top of that. I'll do this. So they're doing 12-hour days out there, and then the blueprinting class Wednesday, and then also taking Thursday, which is a 4-hour class, and then Friday, which is another 8-hour class. So we have some students who are just chugging them all.
Yeah, as someone who's been here for the previous 2 years, again, not an instructor, so I don't have access to a lot of the same knowledge that I've engaged you. What we've seen in the past 2 years is we've seen a large student quantity moving slowly through courses. Our restructuring now is we offer 4 classes in 1 week. which enables a lower student count total of individuals. However, they're moving classes at a lot faster rate. We have, I think, 5 students that are in all 4 class times in the week. So even though our overall student count is lower right now, the number of classes being taken and attended is higher than last year's. Our total lab capacity at any given time is 17. We have 17 booths in the lab. That's the total number of students that we get.
Thank you. Must be fun to build this program, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, the program's been around for a couple of years, but we've unfortunately have seen a lot of turnover, which has slowed the progress in the program. Nevin and Gage are our 4th and 5th instructors, having the program starting in 2019. It's been rocky to try and get any real kind of progress. But in the last 2 years, I think we've made leaps and bounds. That's what we can do, and we have a lot planned for this year.
Do you have GP like we had last year?
So I think Nevin is going to be working with GP later this year.
Okay.
That's something that I'm not informed of, but they are interested in doing another workshop. So that was something that we did last year. Was we did 2 training classes for GP where they brought in 5 of their millwrights over there, or apprentice millwrights, I believe they were, who needed some critical welding knowledge that they didn't have enough time to learn on the job, given the high work volume that we were experiencing in the mill. So they sent them over to us, and we were able to get them some hours that were required for them to move into their full position.
I could kind of talk about that. I'm actually working on the Georgia Pacific course that we're doing right now. We're doing a lot of pipe work. So,
Good.
and we're going to make sure they know pipe code and what's needed. So, but yeah, I've got the packet for that, and I'm going to try to streamline it a little bit and maximize volume.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item is board policy update process, and we have nothing on that.
Yes, sir. So there's nothing on that, but we will be restarting that in February for our 6-year accreditation process, which is going to be, the review is happening in September. And so I've been consulting with Dr. Reisling, who started this process for us, and she wanted me to assure you that the process will be very similar to what you all have already seen. We're just going to kind of re-up it and get to that September deadline for 6 or year 6 of our accreditation. So, any questions about that, or pretty straightforward? Okay, more to come.
Okay. Next item is deliberation on Zone 2 interim appointment.
Would it be possible to combine the deliberation with the action item? Actually, vote on something?
Would be fine with me.
It's kind of odd to talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody okay with that? Okay. And then.
For the 5-year academic calendar.
Okay. Bruce, academic calendar for 2025 to 2033.
Our registrar, who leads this effort, who's hopefully online, Kira.
There she is.
Good evening.
Hello.
I hope everyone can hear me. So I'm Kira Woosley. I'm the registrar at OCCC. It's been a very busy week so far, which is great. And I'm just here to share some information about our academic calendar and what we've been working on there. So I believe you have a copy of it in front of you, or you should have. Oh, yes, Lori, if you want to share that, that would be great. So as you can see here, we have just a basic overview of our calendar showing the number of weeks in each term, the beginning and end dates of each term, and the college closure dates. Those are projected, and we've also gone ahead and done it for 5 years so that everyone can kind of do some planning and everyone knows what the term dates will be. As you can see, maybe you noticed that our fall term has been changed from a 12-week term to an 11-week term, and that's something that that the college committed to about a year ago. And so we're finally following through on that, and we're going to start that in fall of 2025. That means that we're going to push our start date back a week in September instead of starting kind of in the middle. And that'll put us in alignment with other community colleges in Oregon and universities. So we're kind of trying to match up with those a little bit closer, which we think will be better for our students. I think that's basically all the information I have on the calendar. Does anyone have any questions?
Good. Okay. Thank you, Kira. Appreciate it.
I do have a comment though. I really appreciate you going back to the 11 weeks because it used to be like that for a while and then it was changed and now it's really more in line with other places. So yeah, happy to see that.
Agreed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Legislative priorities, Dave?
Thanks very much. Appreciate being here. My name is Dave Price. I'm the VP for engagement at the college. One of my aspects of the roles is I represent the college in the Oregon Community College Association's Campus Advocacy Coalition, as well as some other groups about marketing and outreach. But at a recent meeting just this month, the organization shared a draft resolution that is before you, and they've shared that with every community college. And what you have here is this coalition of the OCCA that represents 17 different community colleges of wildly different sizes, serving wildly different markets, but all trying to sort of herd all of us cats together to at least support a structure that probably not everyone agrees with every point, but the OCCA has drafted this after about a year's work. It is a document that they're hoping that boards of education like yourselves across the state will acknowledge and endorse, if you will, with this vote or not. It's up to you. But they'd certainly like to be able to tell legislators and legislative days, et cetera, that, hey, we have votes of support from X number of the boards of education across the state, showing a broad range of support, primarily for the $920 million ask. But there's other things here as well that may have varying import to different schools. One that I would point out is the very last bullet item. It's called the Adult Reconnect Policy Bill. And this isn't assigning any dollars, but it's basically saying, hey, we have this situation in Oregon where we have people with some college and no degree. And that may ring a bell for some of you because that's been talked about a lot at Oregon Coast as we try to do things like land trades education and other programs to target that market. And I did a little work with ChatGPT just a minute ago, looking at some US Census data. The very latest we could find is that 63% of Lincoln County residents, 25 or better, 25 or older, have some college, according to the US Census Bureau. 29% of them, just shy of 29%, have a bachelor's degree or higher. So that leaves well over 30% of adults in Lincoln County in that target area. 1/3 of our neighbors and the folks that we see in the grocery store have some college but no degree. And that's where we can really capture that. So I'm intrigued to know what this policy bill to basically convene a work group that I would certainly throw our hat in the ring to participate in if it comes to pass, to find ways to re-engage those adults. So if you have any questions about the draft before you, I didn't craft it. It was crafted by OCCA. It's not something we can edit. So if you decide not to get supportive of it, if you can't edit it, then don't support it. But it is, I think, a representation of hard work on behalf of staff and the people they pulled together. I first saw this draft in July and Ben. They've been working on it for a long time. And So I think you'll hear about that $920 million ask figure quite a bit. As this full legislative session gets underway. And that's all I have for you.
Okay.
Any questions for Dave?
Anybody?
I would just like to see the numbers being bigger.
Well. Yeah, I think they would too.
Us too.
Yeah, I think so. I think they got your back on that.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
I'm assuming there are no other board reports. Okay. But I guess we go back to deliberation of Zone 2 interim appointment. Yeah, Chris.
For the purposes of discussion, I will make a motion that we appoint Patrick Alexander to the vacancy for the Zone 2.
I second that.
Any discussion?
That's now we have discussion. I think, I mean, it was pretty nice to see two qualified folks who have a passion. My one, I mean, we know Patrick and what he's done for the college, which, I mean, that's pretty significant. The other candidate, my one hesitation was I hadn't thought about being reelected, and that's just coming up in a couple of months. And I was kind of thinking that was one of those things like, you know, sometimes I live my life a week at a time, but just
Kind of a.
that was a red flag for me of a level of commitment, and what we want is consistency and institutional knowledge over years.
Yeah, and I agree with that assessment as well, because I felt like, there was just more focus in Patrick over, Phil. And so, I mean, we want somebody who can focus on the tasks at hand, not necessarily be all over the place.
And I do believe that Patrick has been connected with the college for quite a while, probably knows what he's getting to something.
But to me, that really wasn't part of the equation, thinking about the two candidates. And like Paul said, they're both really qualified candidates, no doubt. But I think Patrick, and the reason I second you is because I feel like he would make the better candidate than overall.
I agree with that, you know, and I think he's connected in the community in ways that are great. Yeah.
Right.
So,
He's an asset to all of us.
yeah, you bet.
We don't have a small business owner that currently owns a small business, but I really like that when you brought to the table, because we don't currently have any small business owners.
But we would have gotten that with either of them because,
Yes.
And I like that our choice was between people who, you know, are out there in the field right now.
And I always gravitate towards music, but I guess not this time.
Well, and I kind of felt from a higher ed and school perspective, you know, that we enrich for that. What you would do for knowledge.
Any other discussion? Okay, Lori, could you, or Chris, repeat the motion, please?
All right, so motion is to appoint Patrick Alexander as the Zone 2 Board Representative. Emery,
Yes.
Hilda,
Yes.
Chandler,
Yes.
Mann,
Yes.
Skydema,
Yes.
Shoemate,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna skip this just for a little bit. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna suggest we do action item D before we do any of the other ones, if that's okay. So somebody could
So moved.
make a motion, Chris?
Yes, we approve OCCC as legislative priorities for the 2025.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, any discussion?
I think it's important that we support this and be a united front with the other colleges. Absolutely.
You agree? Okay, roll call. Lauren?
All right, Emery,
Yes.
Hilda,
Yes.
Chandler,
Yes.
Mann,
Yes.
Skydema,
Yes.
Schumate,
Yes.
motion carried.
Motion carries. Then, I want to go up to item B, approve resolution 2025-01-01, revisions to previously approved consent agenda resolution. And my understanding of this is that what we are essentially approving is the items that are in bold, as opposed to the whole, thing. Am I correct in that?
Well, is that we're approving the whole thing, that the bold is what's different?
Yes.
New and fresh.
Okay. Motion?
Yep.
Chris?
Support.
Second?
Support.
Okay. Discussion, anybody?
I had some questions about it, but I think most of those have been, at least been, acknowledged and addressed, so I really appreciate that. But other than that, I don't really have anything.
Okay.
Okay, this is to approve resolution 2025-0101, revisions to previously approved consent agenda resolution. Emery,
Yes.
Chandler.
Yes.
Nan,
Yes.
Skydema,
Yes.
Schumate,
Yes.
and, and Kilduff. Yes. Motion carried.
Okay.
Need a
The
motion on, C.
motion is approved. Then the last action item, item C, OCC Board has received the recommendation of the Architect Selection Committee. Pending the completion of the protest period, OCCC will award a contract for architect design services for the OCAT and renovations project to Glass Hacker Architects.
I move approval of the architect selection.
So is there,
I said.
and if I'm a little confused here. There is on the bottom of page 13, is that what we're approving?
So basically what you're approving is the selection of the Glass and Hacker as the architect based on the recommendation from the committee that came forward. So yeah, this will be the entirety of that agreement. And so yes, so this is what you're approving right here.
Although it doesn't specifically say Glass Hacker
Well,
in this.
But I think there's two things in here. I think I see
Yeah.
because there's the
Yeah.
competitive bidding requirement thing.
Right.
That we're not dealing with that today.
Right, that's the
That's in
competitive
February.
bidding that they presented today. You will be voting on that later on.
Okay.
Today, we're only voting on
Okay.
the actual architects that were presented.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Motion?
We have a motion and
Motion and a second.
Okay, all right. Further discussion, anybody? Lori?
All right, this is for pending the completion of the protest period. OCCC will award a contract for architect design services for the OCAT and renovations project to Glass Hacker Architects. Emery,
Yes.
Kilduff.
Yes.
Chandler.
Yes.
Nan,
Yes.
Skydema,
Yes.
Schumate,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, thank you. So that gets us through the action items and coming to the announcement of the future meetings. I think we do the wording here. The next regularly scheduled meeting,
It's not regularly scheduled.
is not regularly scheduled because it's on the fourth Tuesday as opposed to the third Wednesday. But anyway, the next meeting will be on Tuesday, February 25th, here via Zoom. Start with a joint meeting with Lincoln County School District. And then after that's over, we will segue into our regular business meeting.
Start at 5.
Yeah, and beginning at 5 o'clock, yeah. And state dinner will be served?
Yes,
Excellent.
catered by your college student.
Is
take
there
your name,
anything
Sasha,
else to come before the board? Anybody?
I just want to say before we close, I want to thank the board for all their support in onboarding me to this institution. Everyone here has been so welcoming and supportive of me, and I want to thank you all, and I look forward to a long relationship working with you. So thank you.
Welcome aboard, Dr.
Welcome.
Roach. The meeting is adjourned.
So Paul, we're looking at a South Slender, are you guys gonna reach back?
Heck, yeah.